if you've ever had a song stuck in your head, just humming that one part over and over, that little sequence of notes, the thing that you remember, that's a melody.
Exactly. And today we're going to break down how those are actually built. It's the most recognizable part of a song, for sure.
So we're doing a deep dive into the musician's toolkit to see, how these unforgettable tunes are actually put together piece by piece.
Yeah, and it's easy to think a melody is just a bunch of random notes strung together, but it's really not. It's a carefully crafted journey.
The journey, okay. So the notes go up, they go down, maybe they stay the same.
Right. And it's not just the pitch, how high or low the note is. The length, I mean, how long you hold each note, is just as important for the overall feeling.
And what's really cool is that in, well, most popular music, these tunes aren't just random. They're built using scales.
Which are basically just pre-approved sets of notes that we already know sound good together.
So our mission today is to get a handle on all those core elements, the rhythm, the structure, the emotion, that turn a simple idea into, a massive hit.
And to start, you really have to build the framework. I mean, before you can put up walls, you need a foundation. In music, that structure is rhythm.
Okay, let's define that. Rhythm is the heartbeat of the music. It's the structure that organizes everything.
It really is. If you strip away all the notes and just listen to the pulse, that's the rhythm. Without it, music just sounds like, well, a mess.
Impossible to follow.
Completely. And the first choice a composer makes is about duration. How long does each sound last? Are we using a really long note that stretches out?
Or a bunch of short, quick notes that feel energetic.
Exactly. Long notes feel calm, reflective. Short notes feel urgent, exciting. That one choice sets the whole pace.
And to keep all of that organized, musicians use measures.
Right, which are just small groups of beats, usually 2, 3, or 4 beats. They're like chapters in a book, just helping you keep track of where you are.
Got it. And then the overall speed of those measures is the tempo.
Yep. Fast or slow. It can change the entire personality of a rhythm, even if the notes inside the measures are exactly the same.
But here's something that I think separates good songs from, like, the great ones. You don't want the rhythm to be totally predictable.
No. Predictability can get boring fast. That's why we have syncopation.
Ah, syncopation. Okay, so this is when you put the emphasis, that strong beat that makes you tap your foot, on the weak beat instead of the strong one, right?
You got it. It's that little surprise. It pushes against what you expect, and it adds all this drive and excitement. You hear it everywhere in jazz, funk, and pop music.
It's what makes you want to move.
It is. And, we always forget about the most powerful rhythmic tool of all. Silence.
The rests. The moments when you don't play.
Yeah. They're just as important as the notes. They're timed perfectly. They let you breathe. They build anticipation. I mean, a well-placed rest can be incredibly dramatic.
Okay, so once we have that rhythmic foundation, we can start adding the actual ingredients, the notes. This is where scales and motives come in.
Right. And scales are basically your palette. If you used every single possible note, it would just sound chaotic. A scale limits you to a set of notes, usually 7, that we know work well together.
And this is your first big emotional choice, too. We usually talk about 2 main flavors, major and minor.
The major scale just sounds bright, happy, confident. It's what you use for a cheerful pop song.
But if you change just a couple of notes in that pattern, you get the minor scale.
And that instantly sounds more serious, maybe sad or dramatic or tense. The scale you pick really sets the entire emotional tone for the piece.
And every scale has a starting point, right? A home base.
We call it the tonic. That's the perfect term for it. It's home base. The melody can wander away from it, but it always feels resolved and complete when it comes back to that tonic note.
So the scale is like the DNA. What's a motive, then?
A motive is a tiny little musical idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be as short as 3 or 4 notes with a specific rhythm, but it's so catchy you remember it instantly.
It's like the song's signature. That little musical hook that you recognize immediately, even with just a few notes.
Exactly. It's a recurring character in the story. And since it's the part you want people to remember, you have to repeat it. But you can't just repeat it endlessly.
Right, that would be boring. So you use variation.
Yes. You keep the core idea, maybe the rhythm stays exactly the same, but you change the pitches. You move it higher or lower.
So it's familiar, but also new. It keeps the story moving.
Perfectly put. Now let's shift focus from which notes we choose to the relationship between them. We're talking about pitch and intervals.
Okay, so pitch is just how high or low a note sounds. Simple enough.
It is. It's based on the frequency of vibrations. But in a melody, a note's pitch only really matters in relation to the notes right next to it.
And that relationship, that distance between two notes, is called an interval.
And the size of that interval is critical.
Mm.
If you use a lot of small intervals where the notes are close together, the melody sounds smooth and flowing. It's easy to sing. Think of it like walking upstairs one step at a time.
But if you want something more dramatic, you use large intervals. Big jumps.
Big jumps, yeah. They grab your attention. They make the melody feel energetic, surprising. A really good melody does both. It has smooth, stepwise sections, but then it throws in an exciting leap to keep you listening.
And there's one special interval, the octave.
Ah, yes. The octave is when you jump from one note to another note with the same name, but it's just much higher or lower. It feels like a huge expansion or a really satisfying landing.
So when you string a few of these intervals together, you get a musical phrase, which is basically a musical sentence, right?
That's the perfect analogy. It's a complete musical thought with a beginning and an end. And just like we pause between sentences to breathe, musicians use phrases to structure the music.
And for balance, most phrases in pop music are, what, 4/8 measures long?
Typically, yeah.
Mm.
And that structure leads to this really satisfying technique called question and answer.
Okay, I think I know this. The first phrase, the question, sounds kind of unfinished. It leaves you hanging.
Right, it creates tension. And then the second phrase, the answer, resolves that tension. It feels complete. That back and forth makes the music feel so natural and logical.
So we have the structure, the notes, the phrasing. But how do we turn all these mechanical parts into something that's actually, expressive? This is where we get into polishing it.
It is. And that starts with two really important ideas: balance and contrast. Balance just means no one thing is overpowering everything else.
Mm.
If all your notes are super high for too long, it gets shrill. You need to balance them with some lower notes.
And contrast, that's just to keep it from getting boring.
Exactly. You follow a fast section with a slow one,
Huh.
or you change the volume suddenly, something different and unexpected to keep the listener's attention.
We mentioned repetition before. With motives, it seems like that's a huge part of making a melody memorable.
That's probably the most important part. Repetition is how we learn a tune. It's why the chorus of a pop song gets repeated so many times. It's designed to get stuck in your brain.
But there's a trick to it, right? You can't just do the exact same thing over and over.
No, the genius is in moderation. You repeat the best parts, but you add tiny little changes each time to keep it fresh. Maybe the harmony underneath changes slightly, or you tweak the rhythm just a little bit the third time through.
That makes sense. It moves the story forward. Now, for raw emotion, the big tool is dynamics, right? Volume.
Totally. Dynamics is all about volume, from loud to soft. Soft music, we call it piano, can sound really intimate or mysterious.
And loud music, or forte, is for power, for excitement.
But what's really powerful is the change between them. Gradually getting louder, a crescendo builds so much tension, and then suddenly dropping the volume can be a huge surprise. Without dynamics, a melody just sounds flat, mechanical.
Okay, and finally,
Harmony.
harmony. This is when you play more than one note at the same time to form a chord. If the melody is the star singer, harmony is the backup band.
It's the background color.
That's a great way to put it. It's the mood lighting. Some chords feel stable and settled. Others create tension and make you wonder what's next. The harmony tells you how to feel about the melody. So all of these ideas, they eventually have to work in the real world. You have to actually think about the instrument that's going to play the melody.
Oh, absolutely. You can't ignore the physical limits of an instrument or a voice. A violin can play super fast and high. A tuba? Not so much. It's built for low foundational notes.
And if you're writing for a singer, you have to remember they're human. They need to breathe.
You have to write in rests, pauses, for them to take a breath. And you can't write notes that are out of their range. A great melody isn't just cool to listen to, it has to be practical to perform.
So once you've got a first draft, the last step is polishing.
Which is often the hardest part. You have to listen back with fresh ears and be really objective. Find the awkward spots, the notes that don't quite fit.
And maybe get some feedback from someone else, right? Don't just work alone.
Oh, for sure. Getting honest feedback is so important. And sometimes you have to be willing to cut a part you love if it's just not working for the song as a whole.
So polishing is that final check, making sure the pitch, rhythm, dynamics, everything is just right before you write it down so someone else can play it.
Yep. That's the whole process.
So understanding these elements, from the basic rhythm and scales all the way to the final polish, that's how musicians take a simple idea and turn it into professional, unforgettable music. Good luck with your studies.
See you next time.